What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kinetics, where learning is made easy. Today, we're going to be talking about the spinothalamic pathway. So, let's go. Y'all, let's dive into this spinal tract. So, before we get into the spinothalamic pathway, I'm going to do a quick overview of the nervous system. Within the body, you have peripheral nerves that send and receive signals to and from the central nervous system. The central nervous system is comprised of the brain and the spinal cord. And we're going to break it down a little further. As you can see here, we have cross sections of the spinal cord, medulla, pons, midbrain, and cerebrum. The spinothalamic tract is located on the anterior and lateral aspects of the spinal cord, here in blue. Sensory information from the periphery enter the posterior aspect of the spinal cord through the dorsal root ganglion. Here, the signal synapses with another neuron, decussates or crosses over the middle of the spinal cord as it travels through the anterior white commissure. The signal enters the anterior and lateral aspects of the spinothalamic tract and ascends up into the medulla, the pons, and the midbrain until it reaches the cerebrum. Within the cerebrum lies the thalamus. The thalamus has multiple nuclei. But the important one to remember for this pathway is the ventral posterior lateral part of the thalamus, aka the VPL. This is where the signal travels and synapses with another neuron and then relays its sensory information into the cerebrum. Now let's recap the order in which the signal travels through the anterolateral or spinothalamic pathway. Number 1. Sensory information from the periphery enter the posterior aspect of the spinal cord through the dorsal root ganglion. This is known as the first order neuron. Number 2. The signal synapses with the second order neuron in the spinal cord travels through the anterior white commissure and decussates as it enters into the anterolateral or spinothalamic tract. Number 3. The signal continues to ascend through the spinothalamic tract within the medulla, the pons, and the midbrain until it reaches the VPL of the thalamus. Number 4. Here the signal synapses with the third order neuron in the VPL of the thalamus. Number 5. The signal is sent and processed in the cerebrum. This area is known as the somatosensory cortex. This path is known as the conscious relay pathway because the information that's being sent to this area in the brain is where conscious awareness of stimuli is processed. But the spinothalamic tract also has a divergent pathway. The signal is sent to areas in the brainstem and the brain where conscious and non-conscious information is processed. Let's take a look at the steps of the divergent pathway within the spinothalamic tract. Number 1. Within the divergent pathways, sensory information from the periphery enter the posterior aspect of the spinal cord through the dorsal root ganglion. This is the first order neuron. Number 2. The signal synapses with the second order neuron in the spinal cord, decussates, and travels through the anterior white commissure as it enters through the lateral and anterior lateral portion of the spinothalamic pathway. This is called the second order neuron. Number 3. Up until this point, the divergent pathway is the same as the spinothalamic pathway, until we get to the brainstem. Within the brainstem lies the reticular formation. The reticular formation travels through the entire brainstem within the medulla, pons, and midbrain, but I just have it illustrated here within the pons. The signal gets relayed to the reticular formation where it is processed. This is called the spinal-reticular tract. Number 4. The signal continues to travel in the spinothalamic tract until it reaches the midbrain. Here the signal synapses with neurons in the periaqueductal gray and the superior colliculus. This is called the spinal mesencephalic tract. Number 5. The spinal reticular and spinal mesencephalic tracts send signals to the intralaminar and medial nuclei within the thalamus. Number 6. The thalamus then relays the signal to the anterior cingulate cortex, the insula, the amygdala, and the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex. This is known as the spino-emotional pathway. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and leave comments. Tune into my next video, where I get into more detail of the sensory information processed through the spinothalamic tract and the functions of the spinal reticular and spinal mesencephalic tracts. Thanks for watching.